what we do here is go back.
And there we go, we are live. Good evening, it is Saturday 9th of May 2020. It's Mike here, Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and this is our Saturday night live stream. I've just realised I've left the speakers on the laptop, so let's get rid of the audio from there, because that's the last thing we want. And sorry if I'm a bit sweaty, it's been a really hot day here in the UK, so I've been out in the garden making the most of the sunshine, getting some vitamin D and just generally chilling out. I'm trying to relax myself after the week that has been the most surprising week I've seen from AMD for a long time. So for those of you that are joining in the live stream due to the content matter, settle down, get yourself a cup of tea or a beer or whatever it is you want to get. Let's sit down, let's hash this out, let's see who's right, let's see who's wrong, let's see what things could have been done differently, and actually just see how it affects you guys in general. Now, most of you have already seen the news about the B550 chipset and also the new AMD 3000 series processors. Well, kind of new. The 3100 and the 3300X. And also, those of you may have also noticed there has been a few benchmarks that have crept out for a as yet unreleased 4000 APU, which appears to be 8 cores with built-in Vega graphics, possibly Vega 11, running at 3 gigahertz on all 8 cores, but turbo boosting up to about 4.2 gigahertz. So this looks like it's a pre-production sample, but it looks like there is going to be an APU coming out shortly with the 4000 series prefix, but based on Zen 2. So essentially a 3000 part, but with a 4000 part number. Very confusing. The whole setup is completely confusing. We've got Zen, Zen Plus, Zen 2, Zen 3. We've got the 1000 series, 2000 series, 3000 series, 3000 series for mobile, 3000 series APUs. It's a lot to take in. And on top of that, we've got all these new chipsets and also the recently announced B550 chipset, which for me has been bowel-shatteringly bad news on so many levels. Not so much for me personally, because I do tend to swap and change things out quite a lot, but there's definitely a massive amount of people out there who have seen the X570 chipset, seen what it can do, seen what performance is like, seen the compatibility, most importantly, and then rightly or wrongly, we've kind of assumed that the B550 would essentially be pretty much a carbon copy of the X570, but with a few features removed. Little did we realise that some of those features removed would be literally 80% of the AMD product stack, which for a lot of us is actually quite a bitter pill to swallow. But we're going to discuss that in detail. We're going to go through the pitfalls, the compatibility issues, the things that you want to do, the things that I would want to do, the reasons why this is a big deal, and all that kind of stuff coming up in the video. But first of all, let's say a few hellos to those of you that are joining us live in this chat. If you're watching this after the live event, obviously put your comments in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer your questions if I haven't already answered them in this stream. Or again, if you want to, you can discuss it on our Discord chat server. You're more than welcome to join us. It doesn't cost anything, and you can meet some pretty cool people. And British Noob. So let's say hello to some of you who are in the chat. So we've got Marco, who's in the chat. We've got Angry Doge, we've got Ghost Adder, 999999 Fedora. We've got 2000 and some squiggles, not sure what that says, but welcome to the channel. Skystalker's in the house, well, partially in the house because he's got grandkids around. Do what you can, my friend. Matthew Day's in the house, sitting down with a packet of crisps. Says, one of these days I will not fit through the door. I know that feeling. I think we're all getting to that kind of feeling with this crazy corona lockdown at the moment. We're all probably eating a little bit too much and exercising a little bit too little. Although most of us are gamers or computer users, so we're not the most active of a bunch, are we? Let's be completely honest about it. But I get the sentiment. Pierre Plays YT is also with us. Wayne Williams says hello everybody. Edward Cuss is in the house. Rawfish is with us. ClickTech, Kev from ClickTech that is, with us also. AKA Liam's in the house. CJB Broken. So we've got a lot of the regulars in and a few newbies as well. So for those who are new to the channel, thanks for joining us. If you're not sure what we do here, I've got to be honest with you, half the time I'm not entirely sure what we do here, but we do reviews, we do how-tos, we do product unboxings, and we also do pretty much pointless rants on a Saturday evening, regularly 9 PM. So if you want to join us in future, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, all that kind of YouTube stuff that we all just love so much. Well, you lot probably don't, but I do. So, Glenn's in the house as well, says, hi Mike and Kath, hope all is good with you and the family and you had a great birthday. I just popped up to say hello. Thank you very much. Both Kath and myself had our birthdays the last few days, so feeling a little bit older. Although it seems like the world's on pause at the moment anyway, so I'm going to be what I was last year. Anyway, so the AMD fiasco. Now, for me personally, I'm wholeheartedly, and I can say quite honestly, I have and probably always will be an AMD fanboy. I love AMD for being the underdog and for just keep on persevering. They've got such a small share of the market comparatively with Intel and Nvidia on the graphics card side of things. They have a ridiculously small amount of money to play with, so for research, development, advertising, all that kind of stuff. They really, really are the underdog in this entire industry. And when they do well, it's fantastic. And as a community, I'm sure you'll agree with me, we all kind of get behind AMD and we do wish them well. And we love to see these new innovations come out, these new product lines which improve on performance. Well, apart from the FX range, but that's a long story. You know what I mean? They come out and considering what they're working with, 9 times out of 10, they do knock the ball straight out of the park. But this B550 launch has been, in my mind, has been a little bit of a fiasco. Now we'll quickly pause there because we've just had a super chat come in from Skystalker, who has sent us over 10 Canadian dollars, and he says, oh crap, happy birthday guys, sorry I missed it.
Thanks guys.
No problem. And if you're wondering what is going on, whenever we get a super chat come through, the RGB disco ball illuminates to tell me, and also you get a visual feedback to see what's going on, and it also breaks up the video a little bit. So if you want to send a super chat, feel free to do so. There's no need to really, but every little you do helps the channel, helps us buy new stuff, and a few more super chats, and you never know, we might even be able to afford a B550 when they actually release in, what, 3-4 weeks time, which would be great. Marco says, Mike should put on Elton John glasses on Super Chat. Yeah, I definitely should do. That's not a bad idea. I'll see if I can get some. But anyway, the B550 launch. I've got various aspects of this which I attack it from, and various points where I feel, I won't say betrayed because that's a little bit overblown and it's a little bit dramatic, but certainly I do feel a little bit let down about this B550 launch. Now most of us, traditionally, obviously we're working on the assumption and tradition. We work with what we know, what we're told, and what we've experienced. With me so far? So if you take a particular product stack like the original Ryzen 1000 series or Zen, motherboard wise you had the A320, you had the B350, which was an enhanced version and give you extra features and cost generally anywhere between £10 to £50 more depending on the spec of the board. But essentially if you had a few more dollars or a few more pounds or rupees or whatever your currency was, it generally wasn't a massive stretch to go from the A320 to the B450 to get that little bit of extra performance, tweakability, overclocking, all that kind of stuff, and obviously some features as well. Conversely as well, you also had the X370 chipset, which was then a relatively large step up from a lot of the B450 boards when they originally came out. You had much more powerful VRMs, so it would handle higher processors a lot easier. So like the 8-core, 16-thread Ryzen 1700X, 1800X, which were monstrous processors when they came out they struggled a little bit on some of the B450 boards and were not really ideal for the A320 boards, although you could use them. The BIOSes came out and essentially every processor from the very bottom end, so the Ryzen 3 1200, all the way up to the 1800X, worked through the entire product stack of motherboards, so A320, B350, X370. So that set pretty much a precedent. And at that time, AMD said, this was, what was this? This was early 2017, I think, maybe late 2016. Anyway, it's not the point. What I'm trying to say is, at that time, AMD said, AM4 platform, which is what it was using, this is what we're going to stick with until at least 2020. So in our minds, we had a fantastic platform, much better IPC than the FX range, and we had upgrade path. It may not always be entirely clear what that upgrade path was, but we knew pretty much, even if we bought an A320 board now, chances are when they refresh the processors or a new generation comes out, because we're sticking with that platform, the AM4 platform, there's a very, very strong possibility that you could just go to your local store, your Best Buy, your Walmarts, whatever it is, pick up the latest and greatest AMD CPU, take it home. You might have to BIOS flash your motherboard to have the AGISA code to make it work, but essentially you could do that. So your investment in your motherboard, your original motherboard, could be seen literally as an investment rather than something that was more disposable, much like the lines of the Intel chipsets. Kath's got her finger up, that means something.
It's not streaming very good tonight.
It's not streaming very nice.
But it
very...
looks okay on both of mine.
Oh, okay. Not sure what's going on there. Glenn just said that the stream's not coming through very well. Let us know in the comments if the stream's a little bit rubbish at the moment. Seems to be okay. Let me have a quick look at OBS. Don't seem to be dropping any frames.
Yeah, both mine look
No,
okay.
should be okay. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. So, going back to what we're saying. So, you have the A320, the B450, and the X370. Fantastic platforms in their respective price zones and forward compatibility. Now, at that point, obviously, backwards compatibility was out of the question because previously they were on the AM3 and AM3 Plus platform, which was completely different. So we knew then immediately we're making a change from one particular platform to a new platform. So we're not going to go back. And to be fair, the FX range was pretty awful, so we wouldn't really want to go back. Would have been nice, but generally not feasible. DDR4 versus DDR3 and all that kind of stuff. So it was a new platform. We were fully aware of that, and we were pretty much aware of the forward thinking of AMD to give us that extra kind of upgrade path. So then along comes the 2000 series, the Zen Plus, and then we get the B4. Trying to think now. Did we get a 420? No, we didn't, did we? So we get B450 and we get the X470. So again, similar sort of deal. We may need a BIOS update for certain processors, but generally they were ready out of the box to go with the 2000 series processors. So the 2600, which was a fantastically popular processor, Ryzen 5 2600, the 2700X, which was an absolute monster. But generally, if you bought the board, you could put that chip in it. But conversely, if you were in the market and you were thinking, right, I want to dip my toes into AMD now, I've been with Intel for a while, so what I think I'll do is, I like the look of the B450, but my friend has got an old 1700X which they're upgrading to or from, so maybe I'll buy that processor but get the newer board, and then when the 2700X becomes cheaper, I can just swap them out. Now to me, that is the sort of thing that I would think about all the time, and I'm pretty sure most of you that are watching this, we're not on the bleeding edge, let's be realistic. We don't get bleeding edge products here on Mike's Unboxing, purely because I don't believe they're worth the money straight out of the box. I like to save money where I can and get value for money and get the most performance for the least amount of money. It just makes total sense. There's no point spending a ridiculous amount of money on the latest and greatest because it's going to turn around and bite you. It's called the bleeding edge for a reason. It's because generally it hurts your wallet. So you go out and buy a B450 board, or maybe you think a little bit of future proofing. I'll go X470 because it's going to have better VRMs and I might well be able to put on the next generation of chips. So there's that in your mind all the time. Whenever you're making these buying decisions, there's lots of variables. You're looking at compatibility with what you've got what you can afford, and you've got where you're going to. Now, am I being completely unreasonable about this at the moment? Am I making sense? Let me know in the comments, or let Kath know and she'll tell me. But this is pretty much where I am with it. So moving up to the present day. So now we've got the 3000 series chips, Zen 2. We've got the X570 platform, which is pretty much it. And we've also got the previous platforms. So like I said, X470, B450, A320, B350 as well, I suppose you could throw into the mix. So looking at previous releases on the AM4 platform, you would look at it and you think, right, okay, so X570, you get it. You can have backwards compatibility to some extent, as we've seen. So you can go as far back as the 2000 series or 3000 series on APUs. You can go for the current range, which is the 3000 range, so Zen 2, but they've also promised that the X570 will work with the 4000 series or Zen 3. So for those of you that are kind of thinking, oh, that's great, that is a fantastic chipset, but it's a little bit rich for my blood at the moment, but I really would like one. Maybe what I'll do is, I'm on a B450 now, which has been super reliable, really good value for money, it's given me forwards and backwards compatibility. Maybe I'll wait for the B550, which should be pretty much the same as the 570, but it's going to be a little bit cheaper. And for the last year or more, that is pretty much what a lot of people, me included definitely, have all been kind of, right, at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, right, I need a motherboard, what should I get? Do I go X570? Would be nice, bit expensive. X470? Not really a great idea because it's kind of a little bit behind the curve generation wise and the price isn't much different from the X570 or B450. So B450, X570 are the two kind of go-to chipsets at the moment for the kind of the high end and the mid-range person. Sensible money, in my opinion. £200 roughly for an X570 board, anywhere between £70 and £150 for a decent B450, with again backwards forwards compatibility on both of those platforms. So the assumption is there's like a pattern reoccurring here. We're getting backwards and forwards compatibility as we're going through these product stacks. So B550 gets released, and also we get some new processors at the same time. And we get these new processors, so we get the Ryzen 3 3100, which 4 cores, excellent, can't fault it. High IPC, works really good. Relatively cost effective, around about the £100 mark here in the UK. But we've got the Ryzen 5 1600AF, which is effectively a 2600, but cheaper, and is an amazing processor for seemingly less. So you're thinking, right, okay, this is really confusing. So they released two new processors, 3100 and the 3300X, which are both 4-core processors, which realistically in 2020, why would you want a 4-core processor? Hexacore and above is kind of where the mainstream has been pushing. We've got 16 cores, 12 cores, 10 cores, throughout the product stacks, 8-core and 6-core. 6-core was deemed to be the kind of the entry point, realistically, apart from APUs. So AMD released these two chips, and I'm thinking to myself, they don't really make sense. And they keep on pushing this thing, oh, it's as good as gaming as a Intel 9900 or whatever. It's like, yeah, but this still doesn't make sense because we've got the Ryzen 5 1600 over there, which is cheaper, has more cores, and can overclock pretty much the same anyway. So why would you choose a 4-core 8-thread processor over a 6-core 12-thread processor, which is generally cheaper? Especially when everything seemingly is going multi-core. It doesn't make any sense. So quietly then in the background, there's a few news releases. Hey, B550 chipsets here at last, everybody. Woo! Get your wallets ready. Then you look closely at the specs and you see the support and you see this massive red flag. And that red flag says that this motherboard will only support 3000 series processors and 4000 series processors. So what we've previously enjoyed from the B350 and the B450 and other ones in between that has been completely hampered. Now, when you look at it closer, you think, well, hang on, X570 is above B550, so you'd expect some things to be taken out. But you wouldn't expect the backwards compatibility to be taken out. Maybe you'd lose a couple of RGB things or whatever, But Calf's looking troubled.
Glenn, when you're going to ring him.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Why would they? I don't get why they've taken it out. So I've seen a lot of the mainstream YouTubers doing videos on this the last couple of days, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised at their take on it. I understand that they generally get stuff sent to them via MSI, ASUS, whatever it may be, AMD as well possibly. So generally if they get sent a processor, more than likely you're going to get sent a motherboard, much like they did with the X570 stuff and the 3000 series. All that. Anyway, you get the general gist of it. But none of them have really kind of come down on AMD for kind of misleading us slightly or breaking away from the tradition. Most of them have said, well, okay, well, maybe if you're buying a new processor, you're going to buy a new motherboard. Now, for a massive amount of people out there, and probably you guys are watching this, going out and buying a motherboard and a processor at the same time is generally prohibitive. In some countries where the earnings aren't as good, a motherboard will cost a month's wages, like an entire month's wages, comparatively. So are you going to spend 2 months' wages or maybe 3 months' wages or save those wages to buy a motherboard and processor? It's unlikely you're going to be able to do that. So that is why the backwards compatibility, or the backwards and forwards compatibility of the AMD AM4 platform has been so attractive, and why tons and tons of people across the world have actually bought into the ecosystem. Intel chips have been very good, and cost-wise you can generally find something reasonably comparable, especially when you take into consideration that Intel motherboards are generally, on the whole, especially the lower end ones, are considerably cheaper than the AMD counterparts, whereas traditionally it was always the other way around, where Intel boards were more expensive and AMD boards were considerably cheaper because they were the underdog. But now we seem to have flipped tables on this a little bit. So going back to my kind of point, so first of all, I'm a little bit pissed at the kind of the upper tier of YouTubers for not kind of jumping on this a little bit more. Personally, I think as they are kind of like our voice of the community, they should be really turning around to AMD and say, well, look, this is piss poor. You've got a lot of people who have bought into your ethos, supported you even through the FX days. We deserve a little bit of support. Now, whether AMD are under pressure from motherboard manufacturers because they want to save money or they want to sell more boards, fine, I get it. Chances are, realistically, a large percentage of people are going to go out and buy new chips and new boards anyway. They're going to build a whole new system. But don't leave the other people, the ones who are less fortunate, don't leave them out in the cold. Now, if there is a hardware limitation or something completely new of the B550 chipset against the X570 chipset, then understandable. But don't confuse matters by naming it in that family of chipsets. Call it the X whatever, X670, X660 or something. Call it something different so we know, okay, this is a different product stack. It's got a new set of rules. That's absolutely fine, as long as they obviously educate us in that and say like a year in advance. So when X570 came out, for example, if they'd turn around to us and said, right, okay, this is the X570, this is going to be the last of the motherboards which actually has pretty decent backwards and forwards compatibility. We're just telling you now, the B550 will come out, but it's going to be for 3000 and 4000 series only. So this is what you've got to work with. Most people would have been like, okay, fine, you've been upfront, you've told us what the deal is, we've accepted it, we move on. We're knowledgeable in what we can do. But for so many people who've been waiting like this year for a B550 motherboard to come out, and it still obviously hasn't come out yet, actually it's 18 months, it's a long time basically. So people have been waiting for this chipset to come out for a long time, and when it comes out, it's kind of like, well, there it is. And actually it's going to be really expensive because it's got all these cool features, and if you've seen the boards that have come out, there's 5 boards which they've seen on various news outlets, and they basically all look like X570 chipsets. Doesn't seem to be any difference, and I'd imagine they're going to be within 30, maybe $20 to $30 of the high-end boards anyway. So I don't think we're going to get initially that kind of stepping from the chipset qualities. So again, that is another thing which I'm a bit like, So it's a B550 chipset. It hasn't got it hasn't got any backwards compatibility as such. 3,000 chips, 4,000 chips when they arrive. It doesn't look like a good deal. So then you think right, okay, what are the logistics on this? So previously we've known with the X370 chipset, A320, B350, B450, that the BIOS is too small. So it cannot physically hold all of those CPUs in the BIOS memory. It just can't do it. There isn't enough room. So that's why we've seen some of the boards from Asus, for example, the X570 Tough Gaming actually has a 256 megabyte BIOS, whereas previous AM4 boards generally tended to have 128 megabyte, such as the A320, that sort of thing. So it's got double the megabytes. We're talking megabytes here. Megabytes aren't expensive. They really, really aren't. If you look at how much a gigabyte costs you of RAM these days, or memory, or whatever it is, flash storage, it isn't expensive. And when you're at a manufacturer level, the cost is going to be a tiny fragment. So would it be kind of massively unreasonable for AMD to say, okay, we've got all these chips, all these products stacked, we've got all these loyal customers who've really kept us out of the shit and stopped us from going bankrupt. Let's give them something back. Let's give them a bit of backwards compatibility. So maybe you've got a bit of money, you're waiting for the 4000 series to come out. You're right, I'm going to get my new B550 motherboard, but I'm going to use my old Ryzen 5 1600 on it, or 600AF, or whatever it is, or an old APU which you've got knocking around which you're not using, but you really, really got your heart set on the new 4000 series when it comes out. So you've got your board, you're ready to go, you're using an older processor, and you're like, oh, I can't. I'm screwed. Literally, I'm screwed. All I can do is buy a slightly lesser processor, the 3100, which, yes, I can overclock a little bit. Great, fantastic. Still only got 4 cores. Not ideal for a lot of circumstances. When you could have quite easily got a Ryzen 5 1600, Ryzen 5 2600 for pretty much the same money, and it would have been a far, far better investment for most people. Productivity, Chrome tabs, all that kind of stuff. People don't just game on computers. Despite what the mainstream media wants you to think, it ain't all about gaming. There's a lot more that goes on. Research, content creation, you name it. There's a million and one things that people use their PCs for apart from gaming. So do we really need a gaming processor with 4 cores? Probably not. It's bizarre. So what I'm trying to say is, would it be unreasonable for them to say, okay, at the moment we've got, 8 processors that this motherboard can use, probably. So 3100, 3300X, the 3600, the 3600X, 3700, 3800X, a few more, 3950, there's 8 to 10 processors that you can potentially use in this motherboard straight out of the box. So that means a motherboard investment, £150, possibly, maybe more, plus the CPU of your choice from that stack. So realistically, £250 is what it's going to cost you to get on board with that new platform from B550. Best case scenario if you get a £100 chip. Whereas previously you could have picked up a Ryzen 5 1600 for £80–90 and a B450 for £50–60. It's a big jump in investment. And what do you get for it? Maybe you get a couple more lights, you get a few more PCI Express Gen 4 lanes, which probably you're not going to use for NVMe storage, because why would you? It doesn't really make that much difference. Most people can't tell the difference between an SSD and an NVMe. So what is the big thing about this Gen 4 PCI Express? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at some of your comments and questions. I've had my rant for a little bit. There's still more rants to be had. There generally is. And some of the other things which I've seen added on this B550 chipset, it's like, oh, you can use 2 GPUs at the same time. Why? Why would you even want to use 2 GPUs at the same time? It's never, ever, in the history of computing, has it ever been a good idea. When Voodoo did it originally with the 3DFX cards, it wasn't a great idea. The first SLI cards, it's never been a good idea. It's never, ever, ever in the history of computing been a good idea to use 2 graphics cards. So why the hell add it back in now? And why make such a big deal about it? It's such a pointless thing. Better still, remove the extra slot off the motherboard. Take it away. I don't need it. I don't want it. I just want one slot for my graphics card, and you can leave the rest blank. I don't want it. Just put some NVMe slots in. Take out the extra graphics card slot. It's pointless. Yeah. Marco sums it up there. He says SLI and CF, which is Crossfire, is dead. It is dead and buried.
Right.
They tried to bring it back with DirectX 12 and add support for it. It's not a thing. People don't want to do it. Most people's power supplies won't cope with that amount of graphics cards in to make it actually worthwhile. You generally only get about 80% of the second graphics card's performance anyway. There's such a limited niche within a niche of people that are actually going to use 2 graphics cards. If you're Linus Tech Tips or something like that, yes, you probably will, because you can make a video on it and it looks good and people are like, oh cool, look how it can be done. But realistically, in the real world with normal human beings, I have done one on it. Yeah, I have made a video on it, but it was old cards, to be fair. But realistically, it's a pain in the ass, it's crap, it doesn't work, it's horrendous, you get driver issues, some games work, some games don't, some games actually get worse with 2 graphics cards. It's pointless.
Go to the 12 and start.
Anyway, right, then I'm going to answer some of your questions now, and I'm going to drink some of my tea because I've just chatted for far too long.
It's coffee and they're wondering why you're not drinking.
Why am I not drinking? I'm not drinking because I'm taking tablets, because I've got some skin thing, but it's fine, it's clearing up, I'm good.
Start from the top.
Let's have a look from the top. So let's have a look through your questions. I will try and answer as many of your questions as I can.
As long as you don't get too ranty.
But it's gone back to, oh actually top chat, I need to change it to live chat so all messages are available. Don't know why YouTube does that.
I know. It's not nice.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll through. So Dave Burns says, right, what have I missed? I only just tuned in on the verge of buying a B450. Am I still good, but a B450 for 3600? Okay, so that is, yeah, that's actually a very good question. If you're on the verge of buying a B450, yes, it still is a good option. You can still use up to, currently, you can still use up to the Ryzen 9 3950X, as long as the board will look after it VRM-wise and power delivery-wise. So there still is a very, very large upgrade path. The B450 is probably where I would go at the moment. Based on, it's difficult to say because we haven't seen the B550 actually retail prices yet, and the models. AMD have said there's 60 models on the table that are going to be produced, so it's a really tough call to see what is going to be the best bet. But realistically, on one hand, B450, technically, pretty much, unless I don't think we're going to see another 3000 series processor at this point. We might see some APUs. I don't see us seeing another processor. Being that they're at the 3950X, there's only 50 digits left before it gets to 4000. So I can't see another one fitting in the stack. There's no need to because the stack is pretty much full. You've got the Ryzen 3s, you've got your 5s, your 7s and your 9s. So you've got a pretty full inventory. So as long as there's a processor on the market at this current moment that interests you and is likely to see you through for another couple of years, then the B450 is going to be fine. But having said that, I would seriously consider looking for bargains because now that this has happened, I would put money on it that from Monday you will start seeing price reductions on X470 because that makes no sense to anybody now. The X570 is still going to be a hot potato because that is worth getting because you've got forwards and backwards compatibility. But B450 and X470, I would expect to see large reductions in price, especially as now, if all these B550 boards are coming out in the foreseeable couple of weeks come in, they're going to want to shift the inventory. They don't want that stuff hanging around, and the fact that they know that it's kind of end of line, that's going to push that even further. And I would imagine somewhere along the line there's going to be incentives from motherboard manufacturers, possibly even from AMD. So you may see B450 boards advertised as being kind of normal retail price, but with additional extra games or Steam vouchers, all those kind of little sweeteners that you generally tend to see when the product's becoming end of line. B450 is okay for 3600. Personally, the B450 doesn't get the most out of the 3600 in my opinion, and RAM wise sometimes you can struggle to get DDR3600 working on some B450 boards. There are some boards, higher tier ones, which will do it fine, but then if you're spending higher tier on B450, you might as well buy an X570. Or wait for the B550 and see what happens. Glenn says it must be the Cumberland connection. Kieran Atkinson says, I'd say so, Dave, the B450 is still a great chipset. At the right price, it makes total sense. But as you start creeping up in price when it gets close to the... I would personally, actually, if I was having the choice now between the MSI X570-A Pro, which isn't the best of X570 boards, against a higher tier, maybe a Tomahawk board, I would go with the X570 board, purely because you're going to get that forwards compatibility. So that does make a lot of difference. I think the B450 Tomahawk now is going to find itself in a very peculiar position where it's a fantastic board, but it's dead. It's dead in the water at the moment, as far as upgradability has come in for the next lot. There we go. Rawfish says, bit of a random question, but do you think my i3 9100F is bottlenecking my MSI GTX 1070?
Rawfish had to go just now, but...
Possibly. It depends on the game. If you're playing CSGO, then yeah. Other games, probably not so much. 2000 says, hello my friend, what is the best website for downloading Soft Watchbox? Never heard of it. I don't know, sorry. Maybe someone else can answer that in the question. Comments even. Wayne Williams says, I bought 3 X570 motherboards when they first came out, an MSI Ace for me, and 2 Asus TUF boards for my daughters. Yeah, I've got the X570 TUF in my video editing PC, and it is a great board, it really is, and I'm really pleased I got it when I did, because I picked it up at a pretty decent price, about 150, 160, and I can use the Ryzen 4000 series on it. Way, happy days. Where we go, so Jack's Teller's in the house as well. Marco says, the B450 and the 1600AF, a match made in heaven. Totally agreed. The B450 and the 1600AF is such a potent combination for the money. It really, really is. If you take, for example, you could probably pick up a low-end B450 board for, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds, plus that chip for around about 80 if you're lucky. That's a hell of a combination. Oh, I've had a warning come up from YouTube Studio saying, warning, the stream's current bit rate of 2946.99 kilobits per second is lower than the recommended rate. We recommend that you stream a higher bit rate. Okay, fine, thank you. Thanks for letting me know, YouTube. I'm kind of a bit busy right now, but otherwise I'll change that.
I thought you were going to say misinformation.
Misinformation, yeah. Looking at the questions. Oh, actually, in the meantime, while I'm reading through these questions, for all of you that have bought Windows license keys from premiumcdkeys.com, thank you so much. I'm not sure who you are. It does show a name, like a first name, Christian name, and then that you've bought a key, so I don't know who you are, or what you've bought or whatever, but for those of you, there's a couple of names in there that I kind of guess who you are, so thanks to you for doing that. Even though at the moment there is like a massive discount, well I say massive, 10%. It's 10%, but you can still get a 10% discount and also use my affiliate code, so you can use that and you still get your 10% off. Normally with our affiliate code it's like 7.5%, so you get a little bit more. But if you want to use it, the affiliate code is Mike's Unboxing, or just go to www.premiumcdkeys.com/Mike's Unboxing.
You don't get the 10% with your code.
Don't use my code. Just use the Mike's Unboxing on the end of the premium. Kav's going to post it.
Use this link, but
yeah.
Use this. I don't even know the code now. You've confused me.
Richard says it's hypocritical because most of the big YouTubers, yourself included, wholeheartedly recommend 100%.
That's excluded.
You excluded. Oh yeah. Bastard. Thanks, Richard.
Oh, he's put you in
I see what you mean. Yeah. It's hypocritical because most of the big YouTubers, yourself excluded, wholeheartedly 100% recommend the B450 Tomahawk, almost to the point of looking down at any lower end boards. Yeah, actually, yeah, that is true. Really, most people don't need the Tomahawk board. They really don't. They'll quite happily run on like the Gaming X, basically any of the lower end boards. You don't necessarily need a Tomahawk. If you're overclocking the crap out of it, which most AMD processors, especially like 2000 and 3000, precision boost overclock does pretty much what you want it to do. So you don't really need to go crazy with it, unless you want to. Varianto says, how long have the B450 been around? It's probably getting on for about 2.5 years now, maybe slightly more. Probably about 2.5 years, maybe 2 years. Jack Steller says, oh shit, I'm already pissed, Mike, calm down. Okay. Angry Doge has answered that, yeah, so 2018 March, so yeah, just over 2 years. Craig Boulder says, good evening all, good evening to you. Rawfish says something quite controversial. I'm waiting until AM5, no need to get Ryzen 4000. I will wait for Ryzen 5000, which will most likely be AM5, and AM5 Mobos will most likely also have DDR5 and PCI Express Gen 5. So yeah, that is another consideration. So working on the principle that the 5000 series from AMD is going to be DDR5, I don't think we're going to see DDR5 for the 4000 series. I'd be very surprised if that happens. Even though DDR5 production has seemingly ramped up, so there must be something that they're going to be using it for. So who knows? I would be surprised if we see it for the 4000 series, unless it happens like AM3 Plus did, where it supported DDR2 and DDR3 on certain motherboards because it had a dual memory controller, and again, that is entirely possible. But that does actually bring up a very valid point. So AM5 is likely to be around the corner for the DDR5, which we know is in production. So is the B550 realistically going to be the end of the line anyway for pretty much all of the AM4 platform? So is it that big a deal? Maybe not. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It depends where you are in the upgrade process or in your own builds. If you're stuck in a position where you need a board, but you've got an older chip, at the moment you are pretty much screwed, because you either go B450, which is dead, you go B550, which is not going to work with your processor, and probably won't work with the next lot of processors. So X570 is the only real kind of almost sensible solution at the time, but then that's going to be dead if AM5 comes out. It's a very, very, very odd time to be in AMD at the moment. We've been, to be fair to AMD, they have done us proud for so long in this upgrade cycle. But actually, that's another thing which I kind of get a little bit pissed about as well. People keep on saying, oh yeah, AMD have been brilliant, they've given us this motherboard compatibility for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it may be, and they've done so much more than Intel have. They have, this is true, but it's only been a relatively recent thing. If anyone can remember the old BX440 chipset from Intel, which was one of the first Intel chipsets, which was kind of really, really mainstream, that was around for donkey's years, like 5 years or so. So we have been in socket S370, was it S340? I forget. It's very blurry back then. But there has been other chipsets around which have lasted for multiple years. So it's not that big a deal. The AM3 platform, again, AM3 Plus, was around for, what, 10 years? So it's not as if they've treated us that well. It's happened before, but it's not great. Dave Burns says, somebody got 6 gigahertz out of the 3100, which, considering it's only got 4 cores, yes, it is an achievement. I'm not going to take that away, but it's only 4 cores. How fast would they have got out of it if it had 6 or 8 cores? 4 gigahertz, 4.5, 5, which is pretty much where we're at. Oh,
The letter's back.
what is this?
Cappuccino.
Bean is cappuccino. Spoiled I am.
Let us back.
Oh.
Just.
Okay, right, that's that. That's pretty good. Super Goofy Extreme says the BIOS size in some boards, like the MSI Max series, is 32 megabytes, which equals 250 megabits. The Asus TUF should also have 30. Yeah, it has. You're absolutely right. The MSI Max boards are the same as the X570 TUF. I did actually check that before I started the stream tonight, just to kind of make sure I didn't have my wires crossed in some kind of weird way. So yeah, that is, if they're saying that the BIOS hasn't got the room for the chips, I'm sure that 10 processors isn't going to fill the bank. Look at how many processors is supported on the A320 chipset, which has got half the size BIOS, 40 chips plus. So why could they have not at least added the 2000 series, the Zen Plus? It would have been so much simpler. They did it on the X570, so why not do it on the B550? Doesn't make any sense, it really doesn't. Yeah, somebody just said there that the APU users are screwed. Like I said earlier, there is or has been rumours of a Ryzen 5 4000 SKU APU, which I probably imagine is going to be like a 4300G or something, which is based on the Zen 2 architecture, but with the 4000 name, because they always jump forward a name just to confuse the shit out of people. And it seems to work. Kenneth Dyke says, I'm waiting for the Ryzen 7 3700X to drop in price. 37X is an awesome processor. I'm in a very similar position to you, actually. I was looking today on UK Hot Deals, and I did have a couple of those flash up today. So we are actually seeing the Ryzen 3000 series dropping in price a little bit. I did notice the other day that the 3900X has been round about or just below the £400 mark for a little while now, dropping down to 380 in some places. So we are starting to see that drop happen. And yeah, Ryzen 7 3700X would be a processor that I would seriously be considering upgrading to from my Ryzen 5 3600 for video editing workloads, that kind of stuff. Captain Me's Adventure says, what effect will the current situation have on next-gen games consoles? Personally, I don't know this for a fact, and I'm just speculating, but I would imagine that the B550 chipset is essentially what is in the Xbox and PlayStation 4 in a kind of messed around, PlayStation 5, sorry, which would explain why they've gone this crazy route. Possibly. It would make sense then because the economies of scale, because they're making it for Microsoft, they're making it for PlayStation, so why not make it for the PC as well? That would make a lot of sense financially for them to do that. Also, I guess with the B550 chipset, they have saved money, or technically they have, but they haven't had to outsource additional parts of the chipset. So like ASMedia and other manufacturers, they would outsource and get things like USB 3 drivers or USB 3 chipsets, that kind of stuff, or additional SATA controllers, that sort of thing. Doesn't really help as far as Intel LANs are concerned, but it has kind of saved them a little bit of money. And they can make use of older technology that they've got, which hasn't passed the grade, which actually Seam at Night, we're having a discussion on our Discord chat earlier, and he was going on about how the I/O chip is basically kind of repurposed from a chip, or a real processor, which has failed. So they are kind of trying to make savings, but it seems if they are trying to make savings, why screw us, the people that have supported them and kept them out of bankruptcy? Hey, I don't know. It's a crazy time. Right. COVID.
Got some Max, Google's listening.
Aletta's back in the house. I just see. Good to have you back. I thought you'd been in solitary confinement.
We're okay.
Kenneth, actually, sorry, I missed this one out. Kenneth says, sorry, Kevin says before, the only thing is now they're not the underdog anymore, AMD. Yeah, that is a point. They are in a position now, as with most companies, when they are no longer the underdog, they can then start tightening up the thumb screws again. because they've got the captive audience. Apple did exactly the same thing. Look at Apple back in the day. They were literally on their ass, and Microsoft bailed them out by buying like 20% of the company or whatever it was back then, and helped them turn it around. They then brought out the iPod, iTunes came about, the iPhone, which were relatively good prices at the time, but now they're the top dog. They know they can do it, so they charge in excess of $1,000 for a phone, for a freaking phone.
And they do a cheap one, that's just the
And their cheapest one is $400.
Oh, it's old.
What the actual hell? Aletta says, what's everyone crying about? AMD said AM4 would be good to 2020. It's 2020. Yep. It still is 2020 right up until December the 31st, in case somebody wasn't paying attention. So we've got the rest of the year. So if they bring out stuff which isn't going to be working on the AM4 platform, we know where to look. Jack Taylor says, I'm confused and now drunk. Good work. PJB says, will Ryzen 3100 and 3300X work on the B550 motherboard? Yeah, most of them will. And on the A320 as well. Which is, again, what I was referring to. Backwards compatibility on those older chipsets, which is brilliant. So if you've been lucky enough to buy a decent X370 board, like say for instance the Asus Prime X370 Pro, which you probably can't see because it's just at a shot, but it's on the desk, on the shelf there.
No matter how much you point it, they cannot see it.
Yeah, can you still not see it? It's up there, honest. But it is a fantastic board, and as it stands at the moment, you can still pretty much chuck anything on it, apart from the 4000 series, which isn't released yet. So currently there isn't a processor that AMD make that won't work on that board. Happy days. What else we got? So that's an interesting question. So will the 5000 series work on the B550? Impossible to tell at the moment. We don't know enough to make a educated guess. I would...
Just following the science.
We're just following the science, yeah, like they do with the COVID thing. Anyway, let's not go on there. Yeah, who knows? In theory, the 5000 series probably shouldn't work on the B550 because of it using DDR5, if we are led to believe that is correct and everything works as it is intended to. So, I don't know. Again, if they have the dual feature memory controller, it's a possibility that it will work. I would be hesitant because essentially what AMD are trying to do is to remove confusion, which is basically the end user experience. So as with Intel, if you get a 1151 chipset, you know what processor you can use on it. If you get a 20XX chipset, you know what processor is going to fit on it. AMD at the moment are in a kind of a weird place where it's a little bit hit and miss what will work. But personally, for me, I find that works because you only have to do a little bit of research and you can find out what is likely to work or whether you're going to need a BIOS update, and you don't need to have to buy a new platform every time you want to upgrade. Ghost Adder says, why did you go from a 1700X to a 3600 for editing? That doesn't make sense. The 1700 has more cores and threads. The 360 is only better for gaming. Yes, that, exactly. One of my larger regrets is actually upgrading from my 1700X to the 3600, which in theory shouldn't make any sense at all because the 3600 is the best chip. It isn't. For some purposes, it's okay, but for a lot of things, compared with the 1700X, it is considerably worse. Mostly it's, because of forced upgrades. If that board would take the 1700X, which it doesn't, it only takes 2000 series upwards, if that board took that processor, I would probably use it on there now. But it physically will not work, so I cannot. So I was forced into upgrading because of the chipset, which really blows, in my opinion. 5000 series should be a different socket. Yes, it's very likely it will be on the AM5 platform, we think. Kevin Holmes says you should be able to use 3100 and 3300X on any older AM4 board as long as you have the latest BIOS. Yep, this is true. And I've actually gone through and checked out all of the boards that I've reviewed over the last 3 years. I've gone through and I've checked every single one of them to see if the 3100 and 3300X are supported, and it appears they are at the moment. Although I did check yesterday for the MSI B550 R4.0 HDV, and the site was down for some reason, so whether they were updating or whatever, I'm not entirely sure, so I've not clarified that one yet, but it looks like they will be. So Nathan Gamble says, is it not likely that Ryzen 4000 will work on B450 and X470 anyway, considering that A320 doesn't officially support Ryzen 3000, but most A320 boards can work with it with a BIOS update? Again, potentially anything is possible. Officially, they haven't said on the AMD slides, it just says beta BIOS from manufacturer if available. It doesn't have not supported. So that is what makes me think now they're going to be slightly more draconian and either insist or tell or work with the motherboard vendors and say, look, don't add the support for this because we don't want it. And it makes sense because the motherboard vendors will be like, sure, no problem. They can only buy you 3000 series processors anyway, so we don't want them using one of our old boards. We've been selling those for years. Let's get rid of all that crap. Let's go on to the new chipset. It's all about taking money out of our pockets at the end of the day. If you think for any reason that Asus, MSI, ASRock, Gigabyte, shut up, Intel, AMD, whoever it may be, if you think any of them are your friend, or they like you, or they think you're a wonderful person, forget it. All they see is walking dollars, or walking pounds, or rupees, or whatever your currency is. You are just money in their pocket. They do not care about us. They will not ever care about us. That is not their job. Their job is to make money and to make products. Anyway. La 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 la. Jai Zhou says, then the B550 will only work with the 3000 and 4000, whilst 1000, 2000, 3000 works on B450. I know, go figure. It's bizarre. I really don't understand why this has come about. Fred Young says, evening, am I late for this party? You're never late, Fred, and you're always welcome. But I think we've pretty much said what I wanted to say anyway. Nathan Gamble says, the Mortar Max is pretty good. You could also consider an Asus Tough Pro or the MSI B450 A-Pro. Jesus says, so basically AMD is almost forcing us to buy the new chipset motherboard. Yes, what you said, that is exactly what it is. There's no real justifiable reason. I'm pretty sure there cannot be a technical reason for it. I can't see there. If the X570 works, backwards compatible, the B550 should. Unless they've done something really, really weird to the chipset, like added some new kind of algorithms or something, I don't know. Maybe the way the links work with the CPU, possibly. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. Maybe someone like BuildZoid could actually get involved in work out if that is the thing. It is quite possible. But to be honest with you, being forced into buying a motherboard isn't a bad thing. It's happened all the time on various platforms, so it's not entirely unexpected. But it would have been nice to have been kind of eased into it. Like I said earlier, if you're just joining and you've not seen this already, it would have been so good if AMD would have said at the time, this is X570, behold, it is a lovely motherboard, but this is the last one that's going to give you backwards compatibility. After this board's gone, you're going to have to buy into a new platform. Even if they should have called it a new name, they really should have. It just takes away all the confusion. It's bad enough as it is now. I get questions all day, every day. Mike, will X processor work with Y motherboard? It happens all the time. So I end up going to the motherboard manufacturer's site, looking, going down the list, yeah, it will work as long as you've got BIOS version such and such. Then the reply is, how do I know which BIOS I've got?
Oh, I hate that noise.
I hate that question.
Do it again.
It's one of those things, it's, you can never tell. One thing, hats off, if I had a hat I would take it off, hats off to ASRock. Guys, if you're watching, or anyone from ASRock's watching, thank you. Thank you very much, because your boards, when they come out of the factory, there's a little sticker on it, on the BIOS, that says which revision is installed, which is brilliant, because you can literally take the board out of the box, go, oh, brilliant, it works. So you know immediately if it's going to work before you start putting things together, assembling the whole thing, and then firing it up and it going, not working. Fantastic, that is what should happen. Or if you've got an MSI board which supports the BIOS flashback, or any of the ASUS boards that do, that's also a good way of doing it. But realistically, the people that are at the kind of the lower end are the ones which are making and building these systems and cobbling bits together, who are not really sure what they're buying. They don't have the money to buy expensive boards with BIOS flashbacks and that sort of stuff. So for ASRock to do that takes a lot of guesswork out. Excellent. Ghostladder says, I guess that makes sense, Mike, but you could have went with the 2700 or the 2700X, as it is the same price as the 3600. Again, that is, actually, I've got to say, I fell for the same stuff that we all do. I watched all these YouTube videos and the upper echelon of YouTubers reviewing the products and them going, oh yeah, if you're buying a processor now on this board, then yeah, you want to go for this one because it's the higher IPC and blah yada yada, and it's the latest and greatest and all this stuff. And stupidly, I bought into it. And yes, I did regret it. I would have much preferred a 2700X, to be honest with you. And I still might get one. And it'll work, which would be nice.
Good luck with your new ones.
Yeah. All right, where are we? Captain Meese Adventures says, guys, let's say well done for going over 11 million views. Well done, Mike and Kath. Are we over 11 million?
Yeah.
Didn't realise that. That's pretty decent. For any of you that have stuck around with us from the early days, who'd have thought it? 11 million views on our channel. That's bizarre.
11,051,151. All 11s and 5s.
Angry Doge says, Zhai Ji Zhou's name is pronounced as Georgie.
He's written it
But without the R. Okay.
Georgie.
Georgie. Georgie. Right, somebody write that down so I remember it. Aletta says, right, companies only care about the bottom line and the shareholders. Being a fanboy is stupid, just buy what will work for you. I totally agree. It's nice to support companies if you can, but ultimately they're out to screw you. Which we've seen now. Fred Young says, just an idea for a video, but if you ain't done it already, using your mobile phone as a webcam. I think you can do that, can't you, on most Android phones? I don't think you can on iPhone. Not a bad idea, might have to give that a go. Nathan Gamble says, actually the AMD motherboard support matrix does not have not supported for Ryzen 3000 on A320. It only has selected beta BIOS for B550 and X370. Or maybe I'll have to recheck that. I may have overlooked that. It's possible. It's actually quite likely. Kieran Atkinson says, according to Tech Radar, the 4000 series APU will reportedly work with the X470 and B450. So hopefully that will be true with the rest of the 4000 series. The 4000 series APU is not a true 4000 series processor. It's a weird naming convention. So AMD APUs are always numbered 1,000 higher to change the product stack. So a Ryzen 3 2200G is part of the original 1000 series. The Ryzen 3 3200G is part of the original Ryzen 2000 series. So yes, the 4000 APUs should work with the X470 and B450 as they already support the 3000 series processors natively. Does that make sense? I think it did. Georgie says, good thing is that it's easy to sell AMD components. Hopefully. ClickTech Kev says, reminds me of Intel's Coffee Lake launch. Same socket but incompatible with old CPUs. Here. Jack says, that cuppa's looking dry, Mike. Cough. Calf. Oh.
Set users can hear that's not faking.
That's nice. Angry Doe says, are Intel CPUs heavy? Once I held my Ryzen 5 CPU, but it was a lot heavier than I have managed, lol.
Who said that?
I'm not too sure how to react to that one.
Who said that?
That Angry Doge.
Yeah.
Clint Sam says, evening, good evening to you. Aletta says, have you seen some of the new Z490 boards? They're beautiful, although $1,300 is a bit rich. $1,300 is basically what I probably bought my car for, so I wouldn't be spending that much money on a motherboard. That's ridiculous. Mungo Blakey says, hi Mike, sorry, missed explanation. Why do you wish you got a 2700 instead of a 3600? Basically because of the extra threads and the extra cores. I do a lot of video editings, which you probably find hard to believe if you've seen my videos, but there does involve some form of editing and transcoding, and those tasks love cores. Adobe Premiere loves cores, and quite often, she's a bad example, but because my old camera, the G7, if I put on a 25mm lens which hasn't got a stabilizer in it, the footage is shocking. It generally is just like all over the place, all blur. So you have to put warp stabilizer on. Warp stabilizer on my Ryzen 5 3600 takes ages. On the Ryzen 7 1700X, it takes less time. But weirdly, warp stabilizer allegedly prefers frequency. And the Ryzen 5 3600 is supposed to have better IPC than the 1700X. So, I don't know. Ricardo Ricardo says, why so pissed with AMD? They accomplished their word, support from AM3 first 3 gens until 2020. I don't think they said specifically it would be 3 gens, but and it's AM4, but I get what you mean. I'm not so much pissed with the fact that support is kind of coming to a close on AM4. It's just the way that they've gone about doing it with this B550. I don't think that they've kind of made people aware. They've had a year to tell people this. Literally have had a year. But they knew it was going to piss off people. I'm sure they knew it was going to piss off people. So they've deliberately held it back. Even in their own product slides, they kept it a bit hush-hush. Even their product launch, they did online to a few private press release people, rather than a normal kind of open to the public thing. So I'm pretty sure that they knew that people would be like, oh, this is awful, what's going on? So that's why they've done it. They knew that it was going to cause concern. Oh, Clint Sam says, do you have a clock in the background? I can hear clicking or ticking. Yeah, that is the ceiling fan, unfortunately.
Is it too annoying?
If it's annoying, I can turn it off and I'll just melt. It's okay. Ricardo says, yes, sorry, support for AM4 first 3 gens. Yeah. Okay. Kevin Holmes says, the price of the 1600 AF has gone up to £150 now, which is insane, really, isn't it? That sort of money, there's no point at all. But that is the thing I'm noticing. We're finding the entire AMD product stack, whereas previously you'd have like a really, really wide gamut of different prices from kind of your £30 processor right the way up to your £1,000 processor. And equally with motherboards, you'd have anything from kind of £30 up to, well, £1,000, I suppose, for some of the mental boards. But you'd have a really, really wide, but it seems they're kind of crunching up that lower end and it's gradually creeping up. They're pushing those prices up, so you can still buy a crap processor like the 200G or whatever for next to nothing, but essentially it's pointless. There's no point. You might as well get something at least half decent. But as soon as you get to that, then it's like, oh, that's £100 then. Whereas previously we had a little bit of a kind of a leeway in between that. It's not looking good. Things are definitely getting more expensive. Fred Young says a good reason to having dual GPUs is for virtual machines, like running 2 OS at a time. Okay, that is a very, very niche thing, but yeah, that would work. Nugent Hong, if I've completely obliterated that, I do apologise. Says most of AMD users that are pissed are using B450. Yeah, I'm probably in that boat because I bought that motherboard in there, what, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and kind of hoping that it would have some longevity, whereas now realistically I know it's kind of dead, and if I try and resell it now, people are going to look at it in the back of their mind, they're going to be like, well, okay, it works and it's great and it'll get me up and running, but if I want to upgrade, there's that limited path again, and it's not good.
What about Noob and Pierre wanting those other boards so we can get rid of them quick?
Yeah, so if anybody wants to buy any cheap motherboards off me, let me know in Discord chat, and yeah, I'm going to have a clear out of all the inventory. You can have the lot. It's got to go. Bargain basement prices, everybody. Buy a motherboard and I'll throw in a free case. You pay shipping. Ricardo says most people wish that an A320 board would last for 20 years and have all the features of an R7 1700X as an example. Well, realistically, there's no reason why that actually can't be a thing. There isn't really a technological reason why you can't have backwards support for processors on mainstream motherboards. All it takes is a larger BIOS chip, which again, as we said, it costs pence. It literally costs pence to add double the memory on a motherboard, on a BIOS. Megabytes. How much is a megabyte to buy? A gigabyte you can't really buy these days. What's 8 gigs of RAM? 8 gigs now, what? £30. So 8 divided by 30, head hurts, what? £3.50. That's a gigabyte. So then you've got to divide that by another, what, 100 is pence. It literally is pence. So an extra couple of megabytes for a BIOS isn't going to be the end of the world. All right, let's put it this way. If you were to buy a motherboard, and actually this is a real case scenario, so kind of be careful about how you answer this, but if you were buying a motherboard and you had two options, one with a regular BIOS and one with a bigger BIOS, which had more future-proof, which one would you buy if it only cost £10 more? That's such an easy question. You would spend extra £10 to have that forward compatibility and the backward compatibility. It's a no-brainer, and it's happened. MSI have done it. The Tomahawk Max is about £10 dearer than the previous Tomahawk. The Gaming X Max is £10 dearer than the previous version. The AC Carbon Max is £15 dearer because it's got a couple of extra features. But you see where I'm going with this. It's not impossible. It can be done. All motherboard manufacturers have got to do is put a bigger BIOS chip on there, add in the AGESA codes for those chips, and you're off to the races. So there's no reason really why for spending a little bit of money. And I think most people would. I would, if the B550 chipset came out and there was a B550 Max version which supported all the processors going back to whenever, to 2000 series, but it cost me £10 more, you know which one I'd buy? I'd buy the £10 dearer one. And if the BIOS chip cost them, what, $1, they've made an extra $9 on the sale.
I thought we might be upcycling and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Kaf's made a fantastic point there. We are supposed to be in a kind of a sensible upcycling, recycling environment. So,
mend and reuse.
Yeah, make, do and mend, or whatever the bloody phrase is. Really, like, cutting out a couple of dollars for a motherboard on a BIOS chip, so you've got to throw the thing in the landfill
See?
or the sea, and you can't throw stuff in the sea because we all know Greta gets pissed off about us throwing stuff in the sea and all that kind of stuff, so we can't be doing that anymore. So it makes perfect sense. It's ecologically sound and important that we can reuse these older motherboards rather than being chucked away. What chemicals have we got in motherboards which are bad for you? Bluetooth, all of them. It's all bad. None of it's biodegradable. So it makes sense to keep on reusing motherboards if at all possible. Anyway, you get the idea. And relax. Ubuntu Dread says price hikes, not AMD, it's suppliers and traders. I wouldn't say that is entirely 100%. I'd imagine AMD are capitalising on it at some point. I'd be crazy for them not to. And we've had another super chat. That is from Nugent and sent us £2. 2 of your UK pounds, and says, is there any cheap cases that support the Liquid Freezer 360? Now that actually is a very good question, because the Liquid Freezer 360 is massive. So cheap cases, well, the GameMax F15 would do for sure. I wouldn't say that's necessarily cheap though, at about £60, but in the grand scheme of things, most cases now, mid-range cases with decent RAD support, are probably in the £80 to £100 mark, so it's not a bad price. ClickTech Kev says, who's Greta? Not heard her name in a long time.
That's because she can't fly.
No. Yeah, it's because she's in lockdown. She's probably burning plastic bags in her back garden whilst eating steak. Alexa says, I've got my X570s, so I'm set Intel AM5. I'm just really glad that my X570 board I bought was the kind of mid-range, not a expensive one. If I'd have bought a really expensive one, I think I'd be... Well, actually, no, I wouldn't have done anyway, because it goes against everything that I stand for, so I wouldn't have done. I'll cease that. Clint Sam says, will the B450M with BIOS 2.9 be okay for the Ryzen 3300X? I believe it is, yeah. Yeah, P2.90. Yeah, that was there when they released for the 3100 and 3100X. Check out the knowledge of ASRock BIOSes right there. I've impressed myself there.
I didn't understand a word you just said, because you turned into Gamers Nexus.
I did go Gamers Nexus there for a moment. Wayne Williams says, the one with the big BIOS. Yeah, go large. Fred Young says, AMD 3100 just been overclocked to past 5 GHz, which is pretty decent. But as we know, Intel have been there for a little while, so let's not jerk each other off yet. Saj Ali, yeah, if I've said that wrong, I do apologise. Saj, might be Saj. Saj, whatever. Start a fresh build using a B550 or X570, especially if you're going to get a 5000 series. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement. If it's a statement, yeah, definitely. I think I'd probably still go X570 personally. I can't see the B550 being either cheap enough or have sufficient VRM capacity to make it worthwhile not going X570. And in fact, I'll probably see the X570 boards will probably come down in price because they're not the latest and greatest. The B550 is essentially kind of X570 Part 2. So, yeah, it's a weird one. I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing these boards come out to see what they're actually like. Aletta says, always go big with everything. Hell yeah, look at the size of this coffee cup. Steve Johnson, the voice of reason, is just actually, oh my god, why didn't somebody else think of this? Why not have a motherboard with a micro SD socket to take BIOS info? Genius, absolute genius. That would be the perfect solution. Yeah, micro SD. Look at the flash ROMs you used to have for the Nintendo DS. You could put your little R4 chips in, and you could put a micro SD card in, which had basically all the information on there. That is a perfect idea. How easy would that be as well? Take your micro SD out, put it into a computer and a card reader, update your BIOS, lovely jubbly, stick it back in your motherboard, turn it on, happy frickin' days. And cheapest chips, literally. And if it ever goes wrong, just buy another micro SD card and stick it in.
You'd have to format it.
Format it first, FAT32, obviously. But yeah, I don't see any reason why that's a fantastic idea, Steve Johnson. Someone please tell me in the comment section why that is not a great idea, because I really want to hear it, because that is bloody amazing. You have done a good thing.
Where have you got this name from?
Steve Johnson, it says there, why not have a motherboard with micro SD sockets, take BIOS info.
Okay, I've missed him, so...
Anthony Shaddock says, heya! Heya, back at ya. Mungo Blakely says, is it possible for someone to make an unofficial BIOS for the 450 Tomahawk Max that supports 4000 series, as the BIOS chip is 32 megabytes? Easily big enough. That is, yeah, that is where we're going to find out who the actual bad guy is in all this. If MSI say they can do it, and it doesn't happen, we know that AMD have basically said, no, you can't do it. It has happened before, and I'd say if anyone is likely to do it, I would say it'd be MSI, because despite their absolutely shocking return rates, they do generally tend to try and look after the customers. Max BIOSes, for a start, they were one of the first companies to start doing that. And generally, what was it, the 200 GE, which they added overclocking for, which wasn't supposed to be allowed? I think it's them and ASRock that did it. So ASRock and MSI, hats off to you guys for doing that. Nico says, I'm here trying to overclock my Ryzen 5 3600 to 4.2 and crashing all the time with a B450 AROS Pro. Never again. I've literally not tried overclocking my Ryzen 5 3600, even though it's water cooled. I genuinely can't be bothered. Precision boost generally goes up to like 4.1 on all cores anyway. Sustained, so I'm not really gonna get much better than that without farting around with it for hours on end, which I don't have the time for, so I'm not going to do it. Ricardo says, I saw a video yesterday about bottleneck with the Ryzen 3 3100 and the 3300X. They're capable of moving a RX 5700 XT or a 2070, not a super model of course, with a X570 motherboard. Yeah, bottleneck's probably, it's not really what I would say a bottleneck. It depends on the games. I did see Jay's 2 Cents do it with a 2080 Ti, and it was bottlenecking to some extent, but not to the point of where you'd be like, this is unusable. It was more a case of, okay, we're getting to the kind of the limitations of what the game engines can actually do. But there are good choices, although massively unmatched. Where are we? Dave Burns says, do we know when the B550s are hitting the market? It seems to be a couple of weeks' time, if everything goes to plan. Obviously, because we've got the human malware going around, a little bit difficult to predict, but I would probably...
Ricardo says B550 comes in June, A520 comes early 2021.
Right, there we go. Answer the question. Ricardo says, I wanted to get a B450 and a Ryzen 5 2600, but now I'll wait for B550 and 3600X. That's a difficult one, because I would say the performance between a 3600X with a B550 price-wise and a B450 and a Ryzen 5 2600, the 2600, I would do that all day long for the money. You're not going to get a massive improvement B550 with a 3600X over a 2600X, and you can probably overclock it, whereas a 3600X is at the kind of right on the very limit of what it can do anyway. And you'd probably save what, 26, you could probably save about £100 on that combo. Click Tech Care says, are we in the Matrix? Neo, I know Kung Fu. Mike, I know BIOS compatibility. Yeah, I think I was lucky with that one with the 3100, because it was one of the ones I looked up yesterday, and I remembered seeing it was P2.9, 2.90, and it just, for some reason, it stuck in my mind. Can't remember any of the other ones, so I'll be completely honest with you up front there.
I'll tell you the part numbers of windscreen wipers for
Yeah.
Cortina.
Yeah, T18. So yeah, Ricardo says the B550 comes in June and the A520 comes in early 2021. So the A520, oh, see, that makes no sense at all. Why would you have the A520 coming out in 2021 when that is literally when the 5000 series is going to come out? 4000 series rather, sorry. So that, it makes no sense. You'd think that the A520 would come out now in line with the other 500 series boards, or at least kind of soon. You can imagine OEMs are going to want to try and use it. Forrest Bird says, backwards compatibility takes time and money. Engineers, managers and others in the chain got to get paid. I'm okay with that. And find the competition late, even worse. Intel, even worse, sorry. Yeah, ultimately, backwards compatibility takes time, money, engineers, managers, and others in the chain to get paid, which that should be happening anyway. Backwards compatibility shouldn't be something, in my opinion, shouldn't be something which is an extra. It should be baked in. It should be part and parcel of what it is. Like, you don't buy a car, go to the garage and fill it up with fuel and find out, oh, hang on, my car doesn't support that fuel.
Diesel.
Yeah, obviously petrol and diesel, but if a car is designed to run on a certain type of fuel, it will also run on lower grade. It won't run brilliantly, but it will still physically run. So like if you're using 90 rated fuel, in America I think you do, your octane rating is 90, whereas here in the UK I think it's like 92 or 95 or something. But an American car works in the UK and vice versa. It's just, it doesn't run as well because of the different octane levels. I know that's a really simplistic kind of analogy, but it's the same principle. In my opinion, it's like having two tubs of ice cream. So you've got your tubs of ice cream, your 1 litre tubs of ice cream, you've got your premium ice cream, your Haagen-Dazs, and you've got your cheapy ice cream from Tesco. They're both in a 1 litre container. So then another manufacturer comes in, hey, we've got this new ice cream. It's a 1 litre, but it's not going to fit in those containers. But those 1 litre ice creams fit in the 1 litre container, so why can't that 1 litre ice cream? Because it's a new ice cream. I don't care. Put it in the damn box. It's ridiculous. It's the same processors on essentially the same thing. It's the same physical size. There's no difference. Just add the backwards compatibility, for God's sake. Skystalker says, I put a 3900X from a X370 into an X570. Interesting fact, I had to work hard to get the same performance. So did you get better performance on the X370 than you did on the X570? That's how I'm reading it, but that is actually interesting.
Can you go up a little bit?
Cap says I've got to go up a bit. Go on.
Carbine said, can you wish his son a happy birthday?
Carbine. Have I scrolled all the way past that?
Yeah, I think so. He says, or they say, the $170 GTX 1070 I thought works great.
Oh yeah, Carbine says, Skystalker says overclocking on Ryzen with precision boost is pointless. Yeah, I agree completely. Forrest Bird says my MSI B450 simply uses my USB to flash without the CPU being installed. Yeah, it's a great feature. maybe that's what they could do. USB BIOS, just keep it actually on the USB stick. Although I think it probably takes a bit too long to load. Carbine 15 says, hi, that $170 GTX 1070 I got works great. And he also said, Carbine says, hey Mike, can you give a shout out to my son Anthony? Anthony, how you doing? Be good. Be safe. Stay home. Stay lives. All those are things, yeah. And give generously to YouTubers. Jeremy Norris says, took one to 4.5 GHz all core. That's pretty sweet. Anthony Shallock says, nice, must be good binning. Water cooled, yes, it is. Oh no, that's another conversation. I'm getting involved in the wrong thing here. I do shut up. Half the Tree says, hello Mike, just thought I'd pop by. Thank you for popping by. Don't forget to smash the like button. That really does help. Although saying that, after yesterday's video on this same subject, day before, sorry, this is, yeah, it seems to be a very, very hot potato, hot topic even. Everyone's like kind of a little bit kind of shell-shocked by it, really. I still don't get it. I really don't get it. I'm hoping it's just an oversight in someone in the PR department's gone, oh yeah, no, we're not doing that. Whereas the guys in the technical department are probably like shaking their fists or pulling out clumps of hair and going, oh my God, why have you said this? This is such a potentially negative thing for AMD, especially now when they're riding that crest of the wave where there's not really much they can do which is wrong. They seem to be hitting all the right notes in the right order. It just seems that this has come at a really bad time for them. ClickTech Kev says the Coffee Lake incompatibility was down to a different power delivery despite being the same socket, I seem to remember. Be interesting to see if it's a similar case here. That would kind of make sense, but then being that they're using the same processors with the same pinouts, it shouldn't be unless it's internally wired differently to the South Bridge or the I/O or whatever it is. It's very confusing. Carbine 15 says, oh my God, he's smiling, thanks. No problem. Letter says, my water cooling loop is working perfectly. Current temp is 27.4. Not too bad, not too shabby. Garmar says, I think it was the motherboard manufacturers pressuring AMD. I don't doubt it. I really don't doubt it, because I know ultimately they want to sell motherboards. But it seems to me, however you look at it, they're going to sell motherboards at some point or other. There's going to be the large majority of people that are going to be kind of that 10% of users which buy a new motherboard, buy a new processor, take out the old stuff, build a new system, take this stuff, build a new system, sell off the system, give it to someone else, whatever it may be. And they just do it because that is what they do. They enjoy doing it. But there is a massive, massive amount of people in lower wage earning countries, and especially now we've got the COVID-19 thing going on. A lot of people have been furloughed, have been made redundant, have lost their jobs. People are in seriously dire straits around the world. Fortunately, there's a lot of us that are doing okay, but there's a load of people that are really, really struggling.
But even the ones that are furloughed didn't know they've got a job to go back to yet.
Yeah, we are very much like AMD and the B550. We're in no man's land at the moment. We don't know how this whole virus thing is going to pan out. Are people going to be able to go back to work? Are we going to still maintain the kind of the lifestyles we're used to, all that kind of stuff? I know it sounds really doom and gloom, but that is the reality of it. This ain't a bed of roses. Sometimes you wake up and you find yourself in shit. You really do. We've all been there at some points in our lives. If you're young enough to not have been there yet, then that's really good news. But you get to a certain age, and we all do. It's peaks and troughs. And at the moment, this is one of the troughs. We are definitely hitting a low point in our human society of history and all that kind of stuff. So there's people that are really struggling to get money together, and if PC stuff is your hobby, that mid-range chipset, the 550, the 450, the 350, that is going to be your go-to place for most buildings. Yeah, businesses.
They need PCs.
Yeah, if businesses are struggling, they want a PC, what do? What are they going to buy? Okay, generally most businesses are probably going to phone up Dell or HP and get an Intel, so that kind of obliterates that. But you know where I'm coming from. That is where we're looking.
What about PCs you sold companies?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Little companies, isn't it? More so.
The smaller companies,
Struggling.
basically anyone with a lower cash flow or a lower income, they're the ones that have been really screwed over by this. The majority of PC users, hobbyists, YouTubers, all that kind of stuff, reviewers, most of them don't give a toss, because realistically it makes no difference to them. They don't have to go and buy it out of their own money, they get sent it. So it's like, okay, yeah, I've got a new chipset, doesn't work on the old stuff, but don't worry, we chuck that stuff out anyway. And you've got to think about B550. So when Steve at Gamers Nexus comes, right, here's the B550 chipset, let's do some bench tests to see how it performs against the previous. Oh, shit. No, we can't bench test it against anything previous because there isn't anything that works previously on it. So we've got no direct comparison between the B450 and the B550 on the older Ryzen 2000 series chips. So basically, believe us, because yeah, it is just better. We've got no benchmarks to prove it, but it's better and you need one, so please spend money. It's BS. I don't like it. It upsets me. You can probably tell. Anthony says, I like the fact that the B550 doesn't have a chipset fan. Yeah, I did kind of, that also did, I don't quite understand why it doesn't need a chipset fan. I'm not entirely convinced that the X570 did, if I'm completely honest with you. Maybe it's because it doesn't have so many SATA ports on the B550, and that's part of a different chipset. I don't know. Maybe it does. It's confusing. Ricardo says, just a fact, whilst I'm watching this stream, my FX 6300 is 48 degrees with a deep cool Gemax 400 playing Resident Evil 2 Remake. Not bad. With stock cooler, it could probably go to 81 degrees, then stop suddenly. Oh dear.
I think I would.
Yeah, I think I would stop working suddenly at that point. Okay, so that I think pretty much wraps up that that whole thing. As you can probably tell, I'm quite pissed off about it. I'm disappointed, and I'm disappointed for a lot of people out there that are possibly in a similar position to me. Don't have a ton of money, like to upgrade things and try new things out, but maybe you don't have a lot of money for the new processors, which is totally understandable. We all love to do that, don't we? Buy an older bargain basement CPU, put it on a nice new shiny motherboard with that kind of hope in the distant future you're going to upgrade or win the lottery or whatever and buy something nice, new and shiny. But for a lot of people that has now become impossible. Well, potentially impossible. You never quite know. And things could change. So yeah, disappointed is how I feel. I've got two B450 motherboards here. Kath's got one on her computer, which is the ASRock B450 Pro 4. The one behind me is the Gigabyte B450 Gaming X. So straight off, there are two PCs now, which a couple of days ago were looking pretty decent and future-proof, and now we're looking like relics.
Like Greta's going to go fishing.
Yeah. So hopefully Greta is going to enjoy fishing those bastards out of the ocean when I launch them in with my ceremonial AMD gunfire salute. But anyway. There's a long name there I can't pronounce, but it kind of looks German, and it sounds like something like a sausage or something, I'm not entirely sure. But he says, but we can buy the old stuff, the 3700X and the 3950X. You can, but it's still bloody expensive. 3700X is still going to cost you best part of what? 300 quid? Whereas a 2700X, 150, maybe 200 tops. And pretty much negligible difference between the two. The older stuff is where we want to be at. Greta. Good old Greta. JJ, am I late? Only nearly 2 hours. It's fine. It's good to make a late appearance. It's casual. Smart. Ah, dear, dear, dear. Anyway, so yeah, I've got 2 dead PCs effectively, or I've got very limited upgrade paths now. Laptop wise, there's never going to be an upgrade for that anyway, so whatever. I've got an A320 motherboard in the front room, which is my media center PC, which is rocking the 200GE. Represent. Yeah, not sure what I'm going to do with that. I'm really not sure actually. It doesn't get used anyway. I only turn it on to do Windows updates and then turn it back off again because it's in the front room, which is like, if you remember in the 70s and 80s, you'd have kind of very traditional
Best room.
like, yeah, West Indian families, they would have their best room and the sofas would be covered up with kind of like plastic protective coatings on them. And kind of like, if you're a young kid and you had a parent who's an older parent or of that kind of generation, you'd be like, oh yeah, my friends are coming around, and you like take your friends into the good room and you'd be like, get out there, get out, get off that sofa, take your shoes off, don't get your dirty fingers over stuff. I'm digressing. But anyway, that is where my PC is now. It's in the good room.
Which is
So
full of crap.
so we never go in there. At the moment it's full of recycling because recycling is not being picked up because Corona problems, first world ones. Anyway, so let's talk about some of the other things that we've done this week. So we did
How many times have you done the studio this week? Was that this week
Yeah.
or last?
How many times this week have I rearranged the studio? And actually, I don't even know what I should ask. Can you actually see any difference in the setup as it is at the moment? I'm not asking you, even though you're directly there, because I don't want you to say anything, because I'll cry. But as the viewer, can you see much of a difference going on in this space? The one thing you probably will notice straight away is there's a new monitor there, which you probably haven't noticed, but you can probably see more of it because it's a smaller monitor. And this is my new monitor, which I'm doing a review on. Actually, this is the Acer Nitro RG240Y FreeSync 1 millisecond gaming monitor, which I picked up, which is pretty nice. And actually, it's got really nice colours on it, surprisingly.
2 days for review.
Yeah, two days, and that review will be out. But yeah, the picture, I've lowered this unit. Ridiculously, I've lowered this unit about. Actually, where's the old screws?
Just look at the wallpaper.
Yeah, where's the wallpaper? Yeah, I've literally lowered it about that much, which is. Oh, I'm dropping stuff.
It's not that necessary.
I dropped the cabinet 4.5 inches, which, considering the amount of noise, hassle and time it took, it does seem like a very, very wasted thing to do.
But you have got shelves above it.
But there is shelves above it, and the reason I did it is because this PC, I couldn't fit my headphones on top of there, which I don't even know if they can see it. Can they see that in the picture? Yeah. So these headphones, because that 4.5 inches wasn't there, that was touching almost the top of there. And also, I couldn't touch the top-mounted USB ports or the power button without kind of really struggling. So I literally took all of this out and lowered it by about 4.5 inches, just so I can put my headphones up here and actually get to the power button.
But
That is
before
sad.
We did one video with it out.
Yeah, we have done one video with this whole thing changed, so that was gone. There was desks along there, but yeah, it just didn't work very well. Didn't work very well at all. Xbox Gamer says I have the same wallpaper as you guys, but in blue.
Sounds good.
Amazing. Aletta says I don't see any difference. No, it's very subtle. Let's say there was a video which was completely different, but you didn't really get the full thing of it. But if I actually, where's the other? Where are we? Logitech cam number 4. So if I put that camera on, so now you can see. So there is my video editing PC, and you see there's my GameMax F15 just down there. So there's my PC there normally, and I've put in all these
Don't get me.
shelves at the top here. And if I can spin that around a bit, I won't get you. So there are all my shelves. Now the theory was that when I had all this done and it was all finished, here's my studio light, my PC, all tucked away in there. So the theory was when this was, hey,
Look at your head.
look at my head. Yeah. Which one? 2. That's better. So yeah, the theory was when I had the desk done, this was all going to be further forward, so the table would be further back, so the lens could be wider, so you'd see more of what's going on. But that all went wrong. So
The light wasn't available to be there.
the storage is fantastic because we've got so much stuff here which is in the way. So that was really good to get rid of some of that stuff. So yes, that is where we've been at with it. Ah dear. Just need a YouTube badge on the wall now. Hell yeah. Not long to go now until our 100,000 subscribers.
We're a quarter of the way there.
We're a quarter of the way there, so in theory it should take us another
Took my
ages. Yeah, I've run out of fingers and toes. It's going to take a while.
But thank you to you all.
Fit and Local says, you've got the webcam mic turned on, by the way. Oh, have I? Oops. Sorry about that. Yeah, the GPUs behind it are covering up the holes in the wall. Yeah, they are. That's right. Ah, dear. Grey Eagle says, nice amount of supplies. There are empty boxes. ClickTech says, it won't be long before you get 100k. Things are accelerating nicely. Fitlook says that the mic was only on for the other angle. It's true. I got you. I got you. Yeah, Garmar says soon the XY17ers will be upgrading to 4,000 chips and selling their 3700, 3800 and 3900 chips for hopefully decent prices, which will bring down prices of new stock. Hopefully. You never know. It will be good. And then we, the weak B450 folks, can bask in the glory of last-gen greatness. This is true. To be honest, the B450 chipset has always been where it's been at. The Steel Legend board is a fantastic board, and the Pro 4 ASRock board. I really do love the ASRock boards. They just do offer so much value for money, and they just have really good features and a nice BIOS. I really like them. So anyway, that's enough of that. Yeah, fix your Mac on Discord. Fix your mic on Discord rather. Did that.
You didn't even explain what you're doing.
I'm talking about the videos we've done this week, which if you haven't checked out, you should already.
Just random.
Yeah, fix your mic on Discord. The Maxio diffuser, which Angel has stolen already. Well, I technically gave it to her, but...
No, you didn't. That's the other one.
Maxio. Oh no, sorry, the Maxio's in the good room.
The good room, that's the tier.
Good room for the win. Did the freezer, the Arctic Freezer 2, did it fit in the F15? Yes, but the 280mm one is going to be a right bodge job, so I would severely suggest not going down that route. Did those cool Sharkoon fans? What do you think of the Sharkoon fans? They were bloody great. I love those. I'm waiting. Currently, UPS are due to deliver to me on Tuesday between the hours of 11:30 and 1:30. We are due the new Sharkoon RGB Light 100. I have to remember the name, which looks to be an amazing case. It's got some really funky kind of Tron style lighting on the front of it. If you haven't seen one already, I seriously suggest open up another tab and just look in Sharkoon RGB Light 100. It looks like a great case. When I first saw it, I thought, yeah, okay, it looks like another one of those cheap cases. It is a cheap case. Let's not beat around the bush. It is a cheap case. But the more I looked into it and the more I looked at the features, it actually looks like it could be a real winner. It's got loads of ventilation, loads of GPU support, loads of fan support, looks amazing, and don't cost a lot. And in theory, hopefully, it should still have that kind of great Sharkoon build quality. So yeah, we'll be checking that one out Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I might even do a live stream midweek, do a live unboxing of it, so you guys can have a look at it, and you can experience it firsthand with me. What do you reckon? Good idea? If you do, let us know in the comments and I'll see what the deal is. And Anthony Shallock says, love the fans. Awesome. Forest Bird says, I'm going to tell more friends to watch you, Mike. Thank you very much. We appreciate all that. You should all do that. Share the video with your friends. And if it's someone you don't particularly like, share some of the really older stuff because it is really horrendous and they'll be thinking, weird, why are you watching that guy? He's an idiot. Anyway.
But if you suffer from insomnia.
Yeah, if you suffer from insomnia, which a lot of people have during the COVID-19 days, then stick on any one of our playlists actually, and you'll soon drop off. Put on a live stream playlist, perfect for insomnia. You will be off in 5-10 minutes, I guarantee. You have a Mikey Mike, Mike's Unboxing, guaranteed that will happen. If it doesn't, I'll send you a t-shirt. No. What else do we do? So, how to back up pictures and videos from Facebook. So if you're one of these people that has been on Facebook for a long time and you really, really, really love Facebook a little bit, but you get to the point where you're getting hassled by ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, or someone who doesn't like your political values, or just someone who's a general a-hole, and you want to get off of Facebook, but you've like, oh, I've got loads of videos on there, and I've got loads of pictures, and I remember that picture I took back in 2012 when the world nearly ended, but it didn't. Oh, great days. But I need that picture. So rather than going through manually right-clicking, save as, blah, 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 you can actually back up all of your Facebook videos and pictures to your Google Drive. And it don't cost a thing, because it's free. Absolutely brilliant. So if you haven't done that already, and you're considering getting off of Facebook, because it's just a viper's nest of shit, go over there and do a backup of your pictures and videos.
Full of misinformation.
Yeah. COVID-19 misinformation, Facebook ahoy. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting really jarred off of all this kind of misinformation and censorship. It should be down to me what I watch and who I believe, rather than, no, this is not the official story of our government. You should not watch this. Anyway, I'm digressing. What was the other one? So, the other video was the AMD B550. No Ryzen backwards compatibility. I like that. Kath's had to write the notes on the board and it says Ryzen backwards compatibility, but instead of being backwards, it's got an arrow going the wrong way. That's good. You're doing well. You're doing well tonight. Well done. Congratulations.
I don't like writing anymore.
Okay. Jar Jar says agree. Facebook is Putin's playground. Yeah, it's a very, very strange place. So, any other questions?
Frank Young says he's going to YouTube search Mike's first video.
Oh yeah, YouTube.
Right, here it is.
The first video. I can't remember how I started. Right, here it is. We've got. I'm trying to think what it was. I think it was the DeWalt. Here's the DeWalt shop vacuum. I love that vacuum.
Right, here it is.
Right, here it is. Literally, it is filmed here, in this exact same room, but
on a mobile.
those shelves are a little bit higher.
They're not there.
I know that. Yeah, they
You
were.
cut them down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, longer shelves. Yeah, it's horrendous. You should definitely watch it.
No wider shelves. You cut them in half.
Okay. So, any other questions that we've got tonight? Grey Eagle says, keep on making these vids. I learned a lot lately. Oh, that's cool. And I'm learning all the time, so hopefully you guys are as well. And I generally do spend actually a lot of time researching the stuff I say on videos, so it's not like I just get something in front of me and go, blah, blah, blah. I do try and research it so that at least I've got a fighting chance of answering questions. So I do actually put some effort into it. It's not like it's all scripted and I just read it off a thing, because well, my eyesight is not that good and I probably won't be able to read it. Xbox Gamer says, I'm building a PC and I want to know if I should buy a Gigabyte RTX 2070 WindForce dual fan Rev 3 or Gigabyte 2060 Super Gaming OC with 3 fans, both for the same price. Well, if they're both the same price, then I would go with the WindForce. They're both Gigabyte cards anyway, so they're both going to have a relatively good failure rate. So yeah, go for the 2070. The 2070, although 2060 Super. That's a tough one. Because it's the triple fan on the other one, and it's the 2060 Super, Yeah, not sure. That's a tough one. I'm gonna have to look into that and maybe either drop in our Discord or put a comment on one of the videos and I'll try and answer it from there. But I'll look into that one. I'm not 100% sure. Without seeing both cards and actually taking a closer look at the specs of them, it'd be difficult to do. But on face value, I would say probably... I would probably edge towards a 2070, personally, but I'd need to look closer. Matthew Day says, so what is worse, B550 won't take old CPUs, or the 4000 may not run on non-500 boards? So what's B... Yeah, that is... I think it's probably both ways. I think the 4000 series probably will end up working on 400 series boards, I would think. I would hope. I don't think there's really either way of those that are worse. Carbine says, Raid Gamers Nexus, he's live overclocking his 3100 now. Let's say hi from Mike. Please do say, just come over from Mike's Unboxing. I'm sure he doesn't know who I am.
You and comment, don't you, every time you watch?
I do comment on his videos, so he's possibly seen my name at some point. Mark MC says I would go for the 2070 as well. Fred Young says... They say there's a good woman behind a good bloke, and yep, that one right over there, everybody.
I'm in front.
Yeah, she's in front of me, but behind the camera. Alexa says, I think the 2070 would be slightly faster for gaming. Schleimrosselager. There's got to be an easier way of saying that. You'd hope anyway. Schleimrosselager. It's going to happen. Kath is genuinely pissing herself there. Literally, like, there's drips coming out. Schleimrossauger.
You said you
Schleimrossauger. 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 Schleimrossauger.
It's probably completely
There's a
wrong.
shout out if I'm wrong. Oh dear.
Say again?
I can't say it now. Schleimrossauger. Schleimrossauger. Sauger or Sager? One of the two. What the hell? Anyway.
You said you could speak fluent German.
I'm not fluent in German. I've spoken German words.
On your CV.
On my CV it says I'm fluent in German. My CV is full of shit. CV is your curriculum vitae, or basically your resume when you go for a job. I have many, many languages, allegedly. The meaning of my name is suck out mucus. Okay.
What's that other one you used to say? You mustn't say it really.
No, I'm not going to say that one. Sotingel says, late again, hi. Oh dear. Marco says the next Arnold. Arnold Schleimrausinger. I'll be back. What was even the question? Oh yeah, I remember now. 4000 series does not work on B450. No, technically it doesn't. At the moment it doesn't. It might do. But then again it might not. Who knows?
Said it's going to.
But certainly if there are any changes, I will try and report on it as quickly as I can, and I'll be as unbiased as I can. I don't have any affiliations with AMD directly, and actually not really with motherboards technically, I suppose. Kind of don't. But they don't put money in my pocket, and they don't pay for sponsorship, so I will tell you as it is, straight from the website, straight to your desktop, if you subscribe, that is, obviously. So yeah, I'll keep it going, and we'll...
And any affiliates we do have, we tend to not ask for a sponsorship because we want to be honest.
Actually, yeah, that's one important thing that Kath just mentioned, which I'm not sure if you are aware, but when we actually get asked to do videos, like say for instance PartU or Acer, whatever it is, whenever they say how much do you charge for video, we say we don't. Which I know probably some of you would be thinking, well, yeah, right, okay. But we don't, genuinely we don't. We do not charge people for making videos. There's been one or two we've done sponsored spots for premium CD keys, purely because it was one of those things where they are the cheapest out there. They seem to have the best service, so it's not as if I'm taking money to say that it's something that it isn't, but we don't do that anymore. We haven't done that for over a year, maybe even more. But we do not take money from people to make videos. So the videos are not BIOS, we're not paid to say anything, so I say it as it is. If I don't like something, I'll tell you. If I like something, I'll tell you. If I think something's good and bad, again, I'll tell you. So that is where we're at.
And even if they send the products,
Yeah.
we still...
Yeah, and even if they send us the products free of charge for review, we do mention it in the videos. I didn't quite so much years ago, but I generally tend to now if I can, or if I remember, because it ain't scripted, so I just say whatever it is. Yeah, so that's it. So yeah, essentially what I'm trying to say is I will tell you it as it is. I've got no affiliations with anybody, so if something's crap, I'll tell you it's crap. And if I don't...
If we do have affiliates with people.
Yeah, we are affiliated in some respect, like MSI, we've got contacts at MSI, Acer, a few other places, but we don't ever take any money from them. And actually MSI, well, I shouldn't really narrow at anyone, but MSI basically don't say anything into us. They say, we've got this, do you want it for review? And we're like, yeah, okay. And that is pretty much the start and the end of the conversation. It turns up, I do the review, I send them an email with the link so they can check it out. And that's after it's been released. I never send them a link before it's been released. I let them see it after so they can see what my reaction is. And if they like my reaction, great. If they don't like it,
Sahara,
I don't get stuff again.
Sahara, they quite often take and change things from your reactions.
Did I?
I think it's Sahara, isn't it?
I don't know. Not sure. Anyway, I'm digressing now. So hopefully you've learned something today, and if at the very least you take away from this is if you are planning on doing any upgrades or making any builds, or you're thinking about it in the future, all I'll say is be careful what you're buying. Look at the product groups you're buying, look at the motherboards you're looking at, look at the compatibility. That is going to be key here. Obviously, there are going to be bargains to be had in the upcoming weeks as we get closer and closer to that B550 launch. And when this whole kind of thing settles in, you never know, they might have a complete turnaround and say, well, because of we love you guys so much, we're going to expand all the compatibility so you can use XYZ chips, which I think is going to be the best outcome. And really they should have done it to start with, but hopefully that is what's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, well, we've learned our lesson. And we know that we should be looking at other chips and other motherboards. But anyway, yeah, that is what I would hope you take away from this, is essentially don't assume that just because physically a processor fits on a board, it works on a board. Do your research, do your diligence. If you're not sure, we've got a Discord chat server, which I probably mentioned once or twice before, but if you're not sure, jump onto the Discord. You can ask your questions in there, and don't worry about your questions, you thinking them being like a daft question or a stupid question or whatever like that. There is no such thing as a stupid question. All it means is it's a really easy one for us to answer, so it's not a problem. In fact, the dafter the question or the stupider the question, the better for us, because it's easy. We can just turn around and say, yeah, that's fine. Job done. It's the tricky questions which are the hard one, because they take the time to research and find out what the hell is going on. So if you've got any concerns about feeling a little bit daft or maybe asking a newbie question, don't worry, because hey, essentially we all got to start somewhere. So we're a pretty friendly bunch, and well, apart from the British noob who's a little bit sour, but other than that, everyone's really friendly.
Like
I'm joking. British noob is our kind of surrogate son, and we love him to bits, but he does end up being the butt of most jokes. But he loves it.
Stop smiling like that.
It makes me happy just thinking about it. Noob, if you're watching this, we salute you, sir. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps it. If you want to join us on Discord, feel free to do so. Ask your questions, vent your spleen, whatever you want to do. If you want to chat more about the B550 chipset, you're more than... Yeah, Seema Knight on our Discord is brilliant. He's always on there answering questions and super knowledgeable. There's a group that we call experts. So if you've got a question, all you've got to do is do the @experts, and the experts will be notified, and whoever's available will try and answer your question. If there's no one available, we'll get back to you as soon as we can, but we scare because we care, like Monsters Inc. If that makes any sense. We got 2319.
22, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it 22?
Skystalker says, look, no stupid questions, and I love noob. Don't say it out loud. Mark MC says, an unbiased opinion is always the truest point of view. Yes.
Hello.
Sorry, just reading some of your comments. Okay, so yeah, that pretty much wraps things up. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight on this live stream. Hopefully it's relieved some of the boredom. And now you can go over and watch Steve at Gamers Nexus trying to melt a Ryzen 3 3100. So, love you all. See you all in the next stream. If you've got any comments or questions, again, stick them in the video or join us on Discord. But until then, we will catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.